Alright, third video of the day. Also finished London Seance Society over the last, 2 days ago, yesterday, something like that. This, I was just in the mood for some, scary stuff. I was thinking about Sherlock Holmes, or something reminding me of, dinner theater in, a Victorian kind of mansion, Scooby-Doo-ish. I was in the mood for something like that. This kind of ticks those boxes. It kind of reminded me of that book, Marley, the one that's like Ebenezer Scrooge. Anything in the 1800s is kind of boring, though. Like Time and Again, Charles Dickens, anything like that. It's just, most of the time, it's not very interesting. I mean, it kind of is. This was a pretty decent story. This is mostly about some lesbians coming to terms with their lesbianism. But it's supposed to be about seances and ghost stuff. So the London Seance Society is actually a corrupt organization in this book. It's not real. These guys were basically, they talk about all the different tricks they do when they do seances, like these trick candles that make smells appear. What do they used to do? Like the lights, they can make them go off and on, act like they're contacting people. But there's this one woman that actually knows how to do it for real, and she's kind of legendary. So her protege is this girl who had her old girlfriend, Eloise, died, I think. Was she murdered, or was she... How did she die? I can't remember. Anyway, she had a sister that was infiltrating this society, and she thought her sister was just really into seances, but she was actually doing a undercover investigation because she expected them of being corrupt. So her sister Evie, Eloise was her girlfriend, Evie was her sister. Evie dies, and she doesn't know why she died or how. So her and this other girl that she's kind of falling in love with, I can't remember their freaking names. Vaudeline is the one that's and Lena. Lena is the girl that's the understudy. Vaudeline comes up with these 7 things about a seance, right? The first thing you do is the ancient devil's incantation, where you protect your friends, everybody, from rogues and fiends. So it kind of protects everybody from during a seance. Then you do an invocation, where you summon all nearby spirits into the room. You do an isolation. You remove all the spirits except the one you're trying to talk to. Then you do an invitation. You compel the spirits to entrance one of the people at the seance. Then the entrancement phase, you're entranced by the spirit, and the medium can see their memories and figure out what happened. Good way to solve murders if it was real. Then you got the denouement phase, which you ascertain the information from the deceased. And then the termination, where you end it and you expel the deceased spirit from the room, ending the entrancement and concluding the seance. So that's the 7 stages of a seance. So most of the story is kind of boring stuff. You switch back and forth between Lena and this guy, Mr. Morley, who is the guy that's kind of behind a lot of the scheming at the Seance Society. There was another guy that died. They're trying to do a seance for him, and it's kind of boring until you get to the end. But when you get to the end, you find out this guy was actually the murderer, the guy they're doing a seance for, the dead guy. Him and Evie ended up killing each other simultaneously, because when they did the seance, Lena, there's also this thing called apportation, where the spirits will leave an object on the table. I've never heard of that in real life happening, but she left this warbler feather, this bird feather, and she ends up leaving it on the table, and she replaces it with a piece of amber at the end, her sister. So yeah, they're doing it at this place that was next to an ancient, or a gallows that was gone, where a bunch of people were hanged. So there's too many spirits, and Vaudeline can't control them all. So Lena has to help her read some of these things to get the seance going. But Lena starts replacing the real the other guy's name with her sister's name. So she ends up summoning two spirits during the isolation phase. One of them goes into Lena. One of them, the man, goes into Vaudeline. So Vaudeline's like having these like wounds appear. Like that's another thing that can happen is like the deceased will give you wounds, but then they heal when they're gone. It's kind of crazy. So she finds out then about Evie and the other guy killing each other. But the other guy, Mr. Morley, he's sitting there freaking out because he's got this keg of dynamite ready to explode in like 30 minutes. So he was expecting it to like not take as long. So he was going to kill everybody and cover the whole thing up. Because the guy, the ghost guy that was dead, he'd been murdering people. Like he would find rich people and he would murder them and have their wives marry people at the Seance Society and have them give them money every year. So that's how they were making like a ton of money. They were kind of like ripping people off. So that was kind of the whole big deal. Spoiler alert. That's the story. So then at the end, Vaudeline and Lena become a lesbian couple and they go on tour. There's also like a police guy that he seemed like a bad guy, but at the end she found out he wasn't really that bad of a guy. And she all learned a lesson about not everybody's all good or all bad, and it's not a whole lot happened in the first bunch of the book. Basically just telling you about seances and Evie, like what all she was doing when she was infiltrating. A lot of like dressing as men, because that's a big deal in the 1800s. Especially, it kind of explains why lesbians like to dress as men or something. I don't know. Yeah, Volkman was the guy's name. The dead guy. I mean, I gave it 3 stars. It wasn't bad. If you're into lesbians, maybe you'd like this. If you're in a Halloween mood, give it a shot. But, not my favorite book.